Namibia is a relatively newcomer to this. We don't have a discovery. We have never had a discovery before. Over the last couple of years, there is some majors that has been doing prospecting in our sectors. And I think the prospect of us really becoming a player in the upstream, that prospect is really growing by the day, to the extent that now we have some of the major companies, oil companies, that are doing exploration, and therefore, when that time comes, when we actually have a finding, certainly I think we hopefully will not just be a consumer, but also just a producer. But even as a consumer, as small as we are, of course, consumers have a role to play as well. It's true, I think with the COVID-19 outbreak, consumption of energy has come down, and therefore, the role consuming countries can really play is just to say, how quickly can we get the economy back on stream? How quickly can we ramp up the consumption of energy again? And I know a number of countries are starting slowly but surely reopening their economies, and I think that happens, then I think consumption hopefully will come up again, and that will just make it easier for the energy sector.
And when you look at a lot of energy projects that you're going to look around the continent, it's time where you require some government intervention, some real action. And it's not just government intervention when it comes into providing money and all of that. No, governments has their own priorities and other big issues that they're dealing with. But it's continuing to see how we create a bigger, more of an enabling environment to really see how we can enable maybe new drillers, new people investing in new projects, whether it is renewables, whether it is oil and gas, so that these capital inflows and these FIDs can continue coming in. But also it's time for us to really look at really having that conversation with government to see how do we incentivize growth? How do we look at some of these projects that we've looked at and really have a big African thinking and say, it's not just maybe government or ministry talking to us, but we talking to one another and saying, what do you want and what do I want, so that we can pick up some of these projects going, so that to really ensure that it benefits our people, create more jobs, create more opportunities, create local content and local empowerment. So there is not a one strategy that fits for all. I think there must be an open field or an open dialogue and both of us listening to one another that can really create and spur growth from the beginning.
If there's any lesson we would have learned from this COVID-19, it's the fact that you need to have a dialogue. As a private sector, or as a government, or as whatever, wherever you stand, you need to have that kind of a dialogue, because what has happened is really something which nobody ever thought would happen. And therefore, if we all going to start to react and act as a government or as a private sector without actually talking to the other, likely we are just going to prolong the problem. And therefore, the collaborations and the dialogue we have spoken about is very, very important. For example, yes, I know because of the COVID-19, some investors might start to think, well, if I was going to drill, I'm not so sure what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what OPEC is going to do. I don't know where this is going to go. And therefore, maybe I will not do something. But before that decision is taken, or before that position is actually taken, it's always good then actually to have that dialogue with the governments. Right now, we do have about 6 of the major companies that are actually exploring in our sectors. And before the COVID-19, there are plans that at least by the end of January, February next year, we're going to have at least about 4 wells that would have been drilled. Now, during the COVID-19 or after the COVID-19, well, maybe not after, we're still actually in the period, so we don't know where it's going to end. So far, we have not had any of the companies saying, oh, because of COVID-19, we are not going to go ahead. So, but we have been having discussion to say, well, we are all watching the situation. We are actually engaging each other. And obviously, through that engagement, as a government, we would want to, to assist wherever we can to make sure at least that, the plans are not derailed for far too long, and that, we still be able then to pick up, where we left off, soon after the COVID-19 headline. So that dialogue is very, very important.
Right now, Namibia has a massive potential to discover huge amounts of gas, huge amount of petroleum. You just need one discovery, and you're going to see everybody chasing down on what is in Namibia, and it's going to happen very, very soon. But Namibia is not just competing right now to get those dollars from Nigeria or Angola or anything. It's competing with Guyana, which nobody ever thought Guyana would have big discoveries. Guyana is going to be producing about 400,000 barrels a day. It's looking, you're trying to attract those same dollars that are going to Mozambique, which just had big gas discoveries. They're going to be seeing a lot of LNG development. Tanzania or Senegal. So the potential is out there, but the competition for dollars is very, very stiff. And in an era of climate change, you even see limited dollars going into fossil fuels. So you got to be more attractive. You got to find more ways, but you also got to be balanced and really trying to shore up your people. So it's a delicate balance we're walking in, but you need to shore up and get that first discovery and develop it and have it done.
The future of the Namibian energy sector, I think, is bright. As I say, there are very positive and encouraging signs when we talk about the hydrocarbons. As I was just saying, we had a couple of investors that are really, really keen, interested in actually finding something. On the renewable, we have got a lot of going, because over the years we were able actually to introduce some reforms that make it possible for independent power producers to come into the sector and actually produce renewable energy, especially solar and wind. That is going forward, and that's why I think that figure of 30% of solar and wind is actually increasing. It's great, and all coming from the private sector investment. We will continue to do that. But for me, again, all of us, whether as government minister or the investors, I think let's all agree that, at the end of the day, what are we doing all these things for? What is it what we're doing for? Surely we are doing that because we simply also want to have, to make it, for people to live, human beings to live. And therefore, whatever it is we are doing, whether in terms of the policy provision or in terms of investment, it should really be impactful to the human beings, people who we're trying to save, and those human beings must actually feel, something is, what we are doing has a positive impact on their lives.